Okay, my friends, today we are going to stay in the 80s, and we're going to cover this guy, Craig Monson, who was a 80s, just a monster, really big guy. Probably a lot of you don't remember him. I didn't really remember him that well myself, because he didn't really win any major titles, although he was a crowd favorite when he competed. And it goes on to describe a couple situations where that happened, particularly in November of 83 at the WABBA Mr. World Contest in Geneva, which he had a little help getting to from a wealthy guy that ran into him training at the pit in Venice Beach, actually. But there he is. He was a huge guy. What set him apart from everybody else at that time was that he was like 272 pounds, 6'2", had 23 and a quarter inch arms, 62-inch chest, 29-inch thighs, just monstrous. And at that time, in the mid-'80s, the big guys on stage in ripped condition were more like 230, 235. That was a big guy. So he just blew everybody away with just his sheer size. And I got some of the information about him from a website after his name, CraigMonson.com, of course. And it pretty much tells his whole life story, from being a young kid. He was in a gang or two, got into some trouble, ended up, but started training when he was like 13 in high school for football, and then tells the story about how the school actually called his parents because all he wanted to do was work out. So the mom figured it's not such a bad thing. She actually got him a set of weights. He started training at home. But eventually, as I said, he did get into some trouble. And even at home, there was a burglary attempt by a guy who had a hammer. Craig actually got the hammer away from him after having been hit with it himself. End up killing the guy, end up going to San Quentin for manslaughter charges for a few years. But he did get out, and he started a job in cosmetology, and he started working out really hard. When he was a teenager, him and his buddy would sneak into the pit at Venice Beach because they had the entry fees, but the people at the front gate would not let him in because at the time they were prejudiced. He was black, his friend was black. They didn't let him in. He kept on sneaking in, and eventually they just gave up and started letting him in with the fees up front. It was there he was discovered by a wealthy European gentleman that was a bodybuilding fan, and he helped Craig get to that WABBA championship where, according to the website, he placed 5th. According to the Muscular Development article, it was 5th. In either case, the crowd thought he won. The crowd was just so crazy that the judges actually gave him the first place trophy. Then he ended up going to that Crystal Night in London, I think like a year later, also with somebody helping him out to get there. Again, did not win, but was a crowd favorite. The crowd thought he won. Just because his massiveness was just overpowering, really. And he was really strong, too. And they make no bones about that he did steroids. In fact, it said that the first gentleman that helped him get to that WABBA meet even wrote down a steroid regimen for him, which, of course, he doubled up on. He ended up also doing growth hormone down the road, and he did have some trouble from taking steroids. He ended up having a cosmetic issue on his head from the growth hormone, so he stopped that. Sorry about that. Here he is doing curls. Here's his arm routine. Now, his arm routine, this is like 40 sets, about half of which is supersets, and the rest is almost like a superset, doing 4 sets of 8 with like 4 or 5 other exercises. Here he is doing, probably looks a little bit cheating, alternate dumbbell curls, but you can see those are some pretty substantial dumbbells. Here he is doing close grips, again, with some pretty serious weight, doing some tricep work. Like I said, his arms were allegedly measured at 23 and a quarter, which is even bigger than Arnie's were at his peak. So just a huge guy all over, really strong guy. Ended up getting into some trouble. He made some partying rich friends that would pick him up and take him various places in L.A., when he was kind of the big star at the pit. And you can learn the rest of that story at craigmonson.com, which is still a viable website. I think last posted there was several years ago. So thanks for watching. I hope that you'll consider subscribing and stay tuned for what's coming next. Hit those like buttons if you do like the video.